This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Katie, co-host of Coffee with Keith and Katie here on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Coffee with Keith and Katie, where we talk about the adventures of our daily lives and relationship. A new show comes out every Tuesday and Friday at 8:30 p.m. Central. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Coffee with Keith and Katie. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Time for the Gregg and Dave Show.
Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in.
Featuring Greg Wattsnyder.
Give me Twinkies or give me death.
And David Bobke.
I am the Queen, yes.
Bravely bringing you the stories of the strange.
I went off on a madcap romp.
It'll be an adventure. We're going on an adventure.
Wait,
Now sit back and enjoy the show.
That is my least favorite thing to do.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gregg and Dave Show on Public House Media. I am the Greg.
And I am Dave Show.
How you doing today, Dave Show?
I am having a great day, my friend the Greg. Just fantastic. Everything's going my way. Everything's coming up Millhouse. How about you?
Yes, I am having a good day. It is 2 days after Christmas when we're recording this, but it's a couple weeks after Christmas as you are listening to this. Mm-hmm. Or like we always say, who knows? It could be Easter. It could be Halloween. It could be Thanksgiving. You could be listening to this on Valentine's Day. Overrated holiday. Anyway, regardless, it's a couple days after Christmas here. And, gosh, we want to thank you for listening to us over your Christmas break, possibly.
I get the feeling Taylor Swift didn't respond to your letter again this year.
Right, she didn't respond to my letter.
Always next year, man. Always next year.
There is always next year. There is always next year.
For her to not send you a letter again.
Right. So, Dave Show, have you ever not opened a Christmas gift? That'd be weird, right? That'd be stupid. That'd be insane.
I think the only time that I had ever maybe not opened a gift was when I was told to not open it until a certain person had arrived.
Right.
So, like, if the person wanted to see the look on my face or some such thing, that's about the only reason I can come up with personally.
Well, in our first story that Dave Show is going to talk about, we have a man who hasn't opened a particular Christmas gift for several years. Dave Show?
Yeah. And this is sort of like our Christmas gift, this show, to our fine listeners.
Right.
This is like a Christmas gift that's going to be sitting for a couple weeks, and they don't even know about it.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I guess they kind of do because they're expecting a show from us this week, but, whatever.
Wait, how can they open it, though?
They just go to their little podcast thingy and
press open, click.
I guess open it that way somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, if it says play,
no,
they figured it out.
No wrapping paper or bows, because that's always the hardest part about Christmas gifts is unwrapping some of the wrapping paper. People do a good job wrapping those things up.
Yeah, and I find ribbons just get on the way on an iPhone, so I'd do away with those.
Yes.
But anyway, our first story today comes from thewesternstar.com, which I believe is a Canadian publication.
Mm-hmm.
This story actually, it says here, from the Canadian Press. So, to all of our Canadian friends who just celebrated Boxing Day, good day, eh? Some of my favorite people are Canadian, for the record.
All of your favorite people are Canadian. Gee, thanks, Dave Show.
Pretty much all my favorite people. Well, here's the thing, the Greg, before we delve into the story, I don't consider you a person.
Okay.
I consider you to be a figment of my imagination.
Oh, okay.
I don't think anybody that I know actually exists. I've done a lot of medication in my time, but we won't delve into that now. We have a story here. Man keeps unopened Christmas gift from girl who dumped him almost 50 years ago. And there's a lovely picture of this bloke here who's got kind of white hair and a white mustache and a blue present. It looks 50 years old. It looks a little beat up.
Kind of like Dave's show after after a long night of fighting with his blankets.
Yes. Not unlike Mrs. Bale this morning.
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, pounding the eggnog Mountain Dew mixers. Woo. There was a weekend. Well, that's another topic for another show. Dateline Edmonton. Hello. As Canadians tear open their presents this Christmas morning, there's one dog-eared gift that an Edmonton man won't be opening that came from an old girlfriend who dumped him almost 50 years ago.
Whoa.
Back in 1970, before we were even born, the Greg.
8 years, in fact, before I was born.
There you go. Adrian Pierce was a 17-year-old grade 12 student, that would be a senior in high school for us, at George S. Henry Secondary School in Don Mills, Ontario, looking forward to Christmas vacation. Then his girlfriend, his first serious girlfriend, broke up with him. She gave me a present at the same time, and I took the present home. I had a long walk home. Well, it's in Canada, so you'd figure. And I was all upset and angry and all the things you feel when somebody breaks up with you, Pierce recounted.
Can I just say that I scoff Dave Show? I laugh to myself whenever I hear high school students in a, quote, serious relationship. High school students, serious relationship are two phrases that can't go together. Now, you can tell me when you're like, sorry, I'm going on a rant here, Dave Show.
Incoming rant warning!
But you can tell me when you've been married 20 or 30 years after being high school sweethearts that it's a serious relationship. But no serious relationships happen when you're in high school.
I would mostly agree with that. I think there's the odd relationship here or there where you're just like, okay, well, those two just fit together. Something about those two just clicks. But yeah, for the most part, I'm with you. It's like, I can tell you in high school when I was watching like a guy from the football team going out with the head cheerleader, and that relationship lasts 2 weeks, and that's all she could ever talk about. And then they break up, and it's the worst thing in the history of the entire world. And then like a week later, she's dating another guy on the football team. And then that, of course, is such a better relationship, and she's learned so much. And that lasts about a month. But I digress. Enough about Mrs. Bale's personal life. Moving on with the story. And so I fired the present under the Christmas tree. After my family opened their gifts at Christmas, there was still one Christmas gift left, and it's the gift this girl Vicky had given me. I told my family I'm never going to open that present. He never did. Hence the story, I guess. Pierce says Vicky's younger sister... This is where it's going to start getting real interesting. Pierce says Vicky's younger sister approached him a few years after the breakup and gave him some contact numbers, saying Vicky wanted to see him again. He said he saw his old flame a couple of times, but they realized they weren't interested in dating again, and soon after, they lost touch. For years, Pierce continued placing the present under the tree even after he got married and had children. Eventually, his wife put her foot down and said it wasn't welcome under the tree anymore.
Go, wife.
Yeah, I could understand that.
Yeah.
Now he just pulls out the old gift, which is wrapped in shiny blue paper that's fading, and just looks at it before putting it away again. Except this year. Except
what did you do this year, Dave Show?
This year. I should note that by this year we mean 2017, not 2018 when people are hearing this.
Right.
This year he did something more. He found the old phone numbers and dialed them.
Why?
He said...
Why would you do that?
Well, we'll see if he's got an answer here. I was almost shaking. I was so nervous, he said. 10-digit dialing wasn't in use in the Toronto area at the time, so Pierce tried all 3 of the current area codes, but no luck. He tried an internet search and called a woman with the same name in Kelowna, British Columbia, but she was 91 and never lived in Ontario.
Okay, now I start thinking this guy's really a creeper.
You think so?
Almost stalkerish.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like he was hands off for 50 years. I feel like the restraining order would have been off at this point. I'm willing to cut him some slack on this.
Okay.
Pierce said he's not sure what he'd say if the right Vicky answered. He went by his middle name, Mike, back then, so he'd have to explain that. He's not fully sure why he kept the present anyway. No kidding. That's me. I added that. That's not the story. Is it a photograph of her? That would be really awkward.
Yeah.
A book? Chocolates? He doesn't know. Some of the tape doesn't stick so well because one year, in a moment of weakness, Pierce started to open it and then stopped himself.
Okay, Dave. So I have to stop you here
Yes.
and ask if they were chocolates from 50 years ago, being the two foodies that we are, would you still eat them? Do you think?
Heck no. Not a chance.
I might.
You think you'd go for it?
I might. Chocolate it has all sorts of preservatives in it, right?
I don't know.
Depends
if it's good chocolate or not, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Might play a role. I don't know what kind of a shelf life chocolate has in general. I know this brownie that I've been eating has a shelf life of at least 3 days. I'm still eating that one.
Yeah.
That's good eating. He says, I kept it initially because I guess I had hopes that we would get back together and open it together. Now it's just become a habit after 47 years of looking at it and having the pleasure of not opening it, which seems a little twisted to me, admittedly.
Right.
Pierce said his wife is okay with it and kind of likes the mystery of the unopened present too, so at least he's sharing it.
Right.
He said he's considering opening it on the 50th anniversary of receiving it and having a contest to guess what's under the wrapping with a fee to enter and the proceeds going to a Christmas charity. Well, that's nice.
No, that's very charitable, yes.
Yeah, I kind of dig that.
Yeah.
The story is written by a gentleman named Rob Drinkwater from the Canadian Press.
Yes, excellent writing. I wonder if he's just like, when you open gifts, you always rattle them to see what's inside, or you might try to smell through the wrapping paper. I don't know. This guy is a little weird to me.
That's fair to say.
50 years, unopened Christmas gift. It's a mystery.
A lot of things in this world that are a big mystery to us, the Greg. But I hear you about the Christmas presents. There's different methods. You got to feel the gift a little bit. You want to get an idea. Is there something fragile inside? You don't want to shake it too much because there could be something living inside. Perhaps a kitten or a puppy.
Right.
Perhaps another kind of animal.
Maybe a squirrel?
Maybe a squirrel. That sounds like a segue, doesn't it?
It does.
This is Vale. Do we have any segue music? Lovely. All right. MSN.com brings us our second story, and it's titled, 8 Years Later, Squirrel Still Visits Family That Rescued Her. Before I start, the Greg, are you a fan of squirrels? I know you have some animals you're kind of standoff. You hold them at arm's length.
Yeah, I've never encountered a squirrel per se. I think squirrels usually tend to avoid people. Not this one that we're talking about in this story, but generally it's in that rodent family, so I would have to say no. It's still the thing with me about rodents and any small animals or small children is that they're unpredictable.
True that.
You never know what they're going to do. Are they going to jump on you? Are they going to lick you to death? Are they going to bite you? You never really know.
Are you still talking about animals, or are you talking about me?
I don't know what I'm talking about, Dave Show. You make your own inferences here on the Gregg and Dave Show on Public House Media.
Audience, you make the call.
Yep.
So, yes, me and squirrels, for the record, not getting along. Squirrels are trying to eat my house, and I don't care for them very much. I'll leave it at that.
However, I do need to say, I do hang out on a college campus, and for some reason you always hear about students becoming friends with squirrels on a college campus. We had that
campus. Up at UWM, too. The squirrels were, let's say, much friendlier with students. So it's a college campus good place for squirrels.
Yeah.
This story here says a squirrel who nearly died when she was attacked by an owl 8 years ago continues to visit the South Carolina family that took her in, raised, and released her. Brantley Harrison and her family help rehabilitate rescued animals, but the squirrel they took in when she was 4 weeks old has formed a unique bond with them, unlike any of their other rescues. The baby squirrel was attacked by an owl in October 2009 and left very badly injured. There was no way she would have survived in the wild with her injuries. A wildlife rescue group found her, took her in, and then placed her with Harrison and her family. The squirrel that they named Bella wasn't old enough to be released back into the wild before winter's arrival, so she stayed with Harrison and her family until spring. They raised her along with 3 other squirrels. You gotta love the names on these. Larry, Mo, and Curly. Very nice.
Yes.
Harrison said when Bella was being rehabilitated, there didn't appear to be anything particularly special about her. They did not treat her like a pet, and she acted just like every other squirrel they had cared for. So they figured once Bella was released back into the wild, that would probably be the last they would see of her. She would go about her squirrel business, setting up squirrel shop in the squirrel trees and so on and so forth.
Acting squirrely. Yep.
Exactly. Harrison said Bella started coming back, looking for treats within days of being released. She said the others that they were rehabilitating came back for a few days too, which is typical, but within a week or so they stopped coming by and they started avoiding people. But not Bella. Bella sits right at the front door waiting for someone to take notice she has come by for a visit. She has even resorted to jumping over to the dining room window to peer in for someone to see her. That's a smart squirrel.
Yes, it is.
Squirrel knows where the food is, even if they can't get to it, and knows that people will bring the food.
Can I just say, we had stray cats at a college that I will not name that I went to, that I transferred to. We had stray cats that would do the same thing. They'd come back because students fed them. Mm-hmm. I did not like that, necessarily.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Gregg was not a fan.
The Gregg, not a fan. I want that to be the name of this episode. I don't know if it will be. Mrs. Bale not taking notes. All right. Well, it goes on here. Bella doesn't really like to be petted, apparently, but she happily sits on people's laps and eats a lot of nuts. That does not look like a sentence that I ever want to read again. She comes almost daily for a little loving, treats and to torment our dog, Sid, through the glass door.
Oh, yeah, because squirrels love tormenting dogs. And dogs kind of love it, too, don't they? They bark and they just,
I think if they get to chase, I think that's the big thing for them. They get to feel like big dogs if they get to bark at something, but boy, if they get to chase it. Whew.
Have you ever seen dogs chasing squirrels through your neighborhood in River West there, Dave?
My old dog, Worf, a lovely dog, he didn't seem to care about squirrels a whole lot, but there was a dog that I dog sat for, which I believe you met the Gregg, Sydney. Mm-hmm. A little Australian cattle hound. She loves to chase squirrels.
Really?
And I believe actually when she was at my friend's parents' house, she actually caught one in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who love squirrels, I will not tell the rest of that story, but let's just say Sydney won that battle. I'll move on here because this is a sentence I'm kind of interested in. Just recently, I have started putting hats on her, referring to Bella, for photos. And I can't believe she lets me do it. And there's, we'll, of course, have a link to this on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Gregg and Dave Show, 3 G's and Greg.
Right.
There's apparently a video here of Bella modeling a sombrero.
Wow.
There you go. So Bella, basically like a sort of like a member of the family here. Just comes by periodically and begs for food. That sounds like me.
Right. Comes by periodically and begs for food. Yep.
Indeed. It says Bella injured her foot a few years ago. Family caught her again, gave her antibiotics, put her back in one of the rehab cages so she could heal, and she was almost ready to be released back into the wild, but there was something that kept her there. And that thing... she gave birth to 3 tiny babies. Aww.
Oh, three tiny squirrel babies.
Yes. So her human family cared for the little squirrel family until the babies were old enough to be released. Harrison said it was amazing to watch a baby she raised raise babies of her own. So she's like a grandma to squirrels.
There you go.
Is that more or less weird than holding onto a present for 50 years?
I think that's less weird only because, this family's only creeping on squirrels. This guy was creeping on old flames, this other guy with a present. And I just think you can creep on squirrels. You just can't creep on people. That should be the lesson from today's Gregg and Dave Show.
Fair enough. Getting creepy here on the Gregg and Dave Show. One more story to go, the Gregg.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
a very interesting one, I must say. A service I'm very interested in. People will have to stick around through the commercial to hear about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A service. And yeah, you'll just have to stick around after the commercial. You're listening to the Gregg and Dave Show on Public House Media.
You're listening to the Gregg and Dave Show.
Good thinking.
Dave Show,
Yes, the Greg.
what do you think about the Miss America pageant?
I think it is definitely an event, and it's on television.
It's an event, it's on television.
And it involves a lot of walking.
Yeah, apparently. Well, if you'd like to learn more about the Miss America pageant, you can check out Head Over Heels, which is a bi-monthly podcast available on thephmedia.com or iTunes or Stitcher or Amazon or the list goes on, iHeartRadio. And you can check that out and find out what we're talking about. That's Head Over Heels, delves into the Miss America pageant. Who knows? Maybe Miss Wisconsin will win this year.
Yeah, lots of interesting pageant news. And one of these days, Greg, we are going to have the Gregg and Dave Show pageant. And I don't know about you, but I think I'm walking in heels pretty good now. I've got my red dress, too.
You look very stunning in your red dress, by the way, Dave Show.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, the cute little number I picked up a couple of years ago.
Yes, that was Wallpaper by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com that you just heard. Earlier you heard Loping Sting by Kevin MacLeod. Please check out Incompetech.com if you haven't already. If you have any music needs whatsoever, he has got you covered. I can virtually guarantee you that.
And now, back to the Gregg and Dave Show.
Nobody does it better.
And welcome back to the Gregg and Dave Show on Public House Media. I am the Greg.
And I am Dave Show, and I have been spraying for squirrels during the break.
Yes, yes.
Rodent Sheriff, thank you very much. If you'd like to pay us for some advertising, I'd be more than happy to give a testimonial.
Right.
Squirrels are not a fan of Rodent Sheriff.
You can find that squirrel on social media, and you can find us on social media too. We are all over. We're on Facebook and other stuff coming soon at Public House Media. Or you can always look us up at thephmedia.com and see all the great shows that Public House Media has to offer. Right, Dave Show?
Indeed, the Greg. There are a lot of fine shows, which I am enjoying the heck out of. We got, there's more shows coming up in this. Actually, by the time you're hearing this, folks, there are new shows everywhere.
Everywhere.
Well, maybe just 2 or 3 of them. But there's still new shows, and they're still good. I'll be listening.
Yeah.
The grand return of What's the Score?
Excellent. Excellent, Dave Show. So, Dave Show, have you ever wanted to forget something? Like maybe this whole show today?
I know one person that I want to forget, and I'm looking at her right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm just kidding, Mrs. Bale. Silly.
Well, Dave, what about maybe a spoiler for a movie?
You know, I got in a tizzy, as people do. You know, everybody has a good tizzy now and then.
Right.
Because there was a lot of fervor, shall we say, over a certain movie that came out a few weeks back called Star Wars The Last Jedi. A lot of people saying, no spoilers, don't tell me spoilers. If anybody gives me spoilers on the movie, I'm going to come and set you on fire with a flamethrower and then throw salt on you. And understandable, right? You want to go check out a movie, you want some surprise. You don't want to know how it ends necessarily.
Right.
Unless you're seeing like a movie adapted from a Shakespeare play or something, you probably know how that ends. But something like Star Wars, you don't want to know that P. Arthur's character from the Star Wars Holiday Special makes a surprise appearance and turns out to be a Porg mother. You don't want to know that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, apparently, according to ScreenRant.com, a way to unspoil yourself.
Does it have to do with hypnotism by chance?
Why, yes, it does, the Greg. It says here, again, ScreenRant.com is the source here, a new service called Unspoil Me, developed by Samsung Electronics Nordic. claims to allow users to hypnotize themselves into forgetting ruinous spoilers for their favorite TV shows and most anticipated movies.
Can I just say one thing real quick? You mentioned the name of the company, Samsung Nordic.
Yes.
Samsung. It's the same company that supposedly has exploding batteries on random things, computers and phones and things like that. Not sure how much I trust Samsung anymore, Dave Show.
Well, I will say in Samsung's favor, I have a Blu-ray player of theirs. Works still very well. But I think, you know what? Exploding batteries, that's just part of the excitement. Spoiler alert, though, Greg. Your Samsung phone's battery will never explode on you.
Right, because I don't have a Samsung phone.
There you go. But, I mean, you know, if you did, you wouldn't want to know it's not going to explode. That takes all the fun out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You want to think there's a chance that it could blow up in your pocket. I'm not convincing anybody, am I? I should just move on. In an age of omnipresent social media, spoilers are harder than ever to avoid, requiring strict spoiler phobes to avoid checking Facebook or Twitter until they have a chance to see the latest Star Wars movie. But short of living the life of a hermit, it's impossible to completely guard against the risk of spoilers. Samsung Electronics Nordic claims to have the solution to this problem. Their new Unspoil Me service reportedly allows users to digitally hypnotize themselves into forgetting the details of television series or films, in part or in entirety. Unspoil Me was developed in conjunction with famous hypnotist and mental coach Frederick Preisto. You ever heard of Frederick Preisto?
No, I haven't, but I read it as Frederick Presto.
That could be.
And it that scares me because, I don't know, never trust a guy with the last name Presto.
You know, I feel like I've heard this name before, and somehow I've forgotten. Each digital session lasts for about 20 minutes, and the viewer is able to guide themselves through the process by following a series of on-screen prompts.
You're getting sleepy. Very sleepy.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
The Star Wars prequels never existed. Shout out to Beauties and Headcanons, by the way. Right here on Public House Media. While the goals of Unspoil Me are laudable, it says the practicality of such a service is debatable. It seems a frivolous thing to use a therapeutic tool such as hypnosis merely because some friend thoughtlessly told you what happened in the season finale of Game of Thrones. It also seems unlikely, even under Presto's guidance, that something requiring a fine personal touch could be administered electronically. I'm curious, Greg, have you ever had somebody attempt to do hypnosis to you?
Yes, and I faked it out pretty well. I believe I had to say something, which I will say on the air, and this is very weird, but I had to say, touch my monkey. But I wasn't really hypnotized. I was kind of faking it out just to gain a crowd response, a favorable crowd response, you know. I've seen hypnotism work. I've seen it not work so well. I've seen hypnotists who have said, okay, go back to your seat. But I've also seen it. We have graduation festivities here in Waukesha that consist of a hypnotist and 3 or 4 people who were hypnotized. They had to use the restroom. So they literally walked off stage in a hypnotic state to the restroom with someone helping them, of course. But we were all wondering how they were going to fare in the restroom. Fortunately, they came out pretty well off. Yeah, I can't believe I just shared that story on air.
Oh.
So, but no, have you ever been hypnotized, Dave Show?
I cannot say that I have ever actually officially been hypnotized.
Have you ever faked it?
I have never officially faked it. Not with a hypnotist.
Right.
I feel like I got hypnotized by the movie Underworld the first time I saw it, because I watched it for like 15 minutes and I thought this is the most boring thing I think I've ever seen. And then I left. And I called my mother. That's what I did.
That's what you did.
True story. I was supposed to call her anyway, so I thought that was a good excuse. But speaking of going to the bathroom, Greg, I don't know about you, but I've hit my Mountain Dew pretty hard.
I think that means that another episode of the Gregg and Dave Show has come to an end. Hopefully you won't use that hypnotizer to forget this episode of the Gregg and Dave Show on Public House Media. Remember that you can find us wherever good podcasts are found. That includes iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and some other services that I can't remember right now.
The only one I can ever remember is Anchor FM.
Anchor FM. There you go.
Carolina, Anchor FM.
There you go.
So, I guess on that note, the Gregg and I, Dave Show, bid you adieu, and remember, touch our monkey.
Yes.
Touch it. Love it.
Do that.
You've been listening to The Gregg and Dave Show. The Gregg and Dave Show theme is Take a Chance by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com.